Hello, dear friends. Today we continue our acquaintance with the memoirs of Waffen SS Major General Kurt Meyer. Don't forget to rate the video and leave your opinion about this material. Well, let's begin. Russian divisions attacked our defensive positions with relentless force. The breakthroughs could only be eliminated by making extraordinary efforts. My battalion was on the left flank of the Leibstandarte Division and maintained contact with the 60th Motorized Division. The units managed to hold their positions, interacting with each other during the battle, and create strong points with the help of Russian volunteers. The combat effectiveness of our units had weakened so much that commanders even began to use anti-Bolshevik Russians in frontline units. Therefore, I was not surprised when, visiting my soldiers at their positions, I sometimes encountered almost more Russians than Germans. The volunteers were mainly from either the North Caucasus or Ukraine. Their enthusiasm was boundless at the time, and it was for this reason that they were accepted by our soldiers. In December, during a hurricane of artillery fire, I lost one of my best comrades. Our wonderful interpreter, the brave Heinz Drescher, was one of the most gifted officers in the battalion. He was always an example to others, both in life and in battle. He found his final resting place on a railway embankment in Taganrog. Shortly before Christmas, I was incredibly lucky. I received permission to fly home. I flew out of Taganrog with several comrades on a transport plane. We flew via Uman to Lviv, where I boarded a train. 18 hours later, I was standing, miserable and bedraggled, at the Friedrichstrasse railway station, talking to my family on the phone for the first time in so long. It is a pity that this happy time passed too quickly, and the moment of parting came very quickly. On December 30th, I received an order to report to Hitler on January 1st. The invitation was delivered to me from the Reich Chancellery. A piercing cold prevailed in Germany at that time. I said goodbye to my wife at the Zoo railway station in Berlin and climbed into the freezing cold train carriage. My traveling companion was the Japanese ambassador, who was also going to East Prussia, and who, based on previous experience traveling on special trains, had stocked up on cognac. It wasn't long before we were trying to warm ourselves with the hot drink. There, I was met by comrades who escorted me through a thick forest to the Fuhrer's headquarters. We were checked at several posts and reported by telephone at the last post. Security duties here were performed by personnel from the SS Motorized Grenadier Division, Great Germany. The headquarters consisted of several reinforced concrete bunkers and ordinary wooden barracks, excellently camouflaged. They were hidden behind tall trees. The accommodation and food were appropriate for the circumstances. Undoubtedly, practicality and simplicity were the guiding principles in the construction of the Führer's headquarters. SS Hauptsturmführer Pfeiffer received me and informed me of the reason for my summons here. From his words, I concluded that Adolf Hitler was concerned about the situation at the front and would like to receive information, so to speak, firsthand. Adolf Hitler struck me as a simple and energetic man. I was surprised that he was well versed in weapons and was accurately informed about the advantages and disadvantages of various types of tanks and armored vehicles. However, what struck me most was that he was familiar with my battalion's combat operations and wanted answers to questions about tactics. Given the battalion's previous successes, it was reinforced with a grenadier company of light armored vehicles and a fire platoon of heavy infantry guns. I did not mince words when talking about the combat operations near Rostov and reported on the excessive demands that were placed on the units and formations. I particularly emphasized the inadequacy of reinforcements. General Jodl supported me and referred to reports from other units. From the conversation, I got the impression that the situation with the troops in the east was very troubling to Adolf Hitler, and that he was concerned about how to help the cause. On January 3rd, together with Colonel Zeitzler, I flew back to Mariupol. In Mariupol, I transferred to another plane that was to take me to Taganrog. Soon we flew over the smoking wreckage of a downed transport plane. To shorten my journey to division headquarters, the pilot landed the light aircraft within sight of the command post, and I boarded a horse-drawn sleigh that was passing by. Frozen through, I arrived back at my unit after a 16-day absence. That same night, I replaced Hugo Cross, who had been temporarily acting as battalion commander, and in the gray morning twilight, for the first time after such a long break, I trudged through the positions of my unit. From the beginning of the Russian campaign until December 15, 1941, my battalion suffered the following losses. Killed: 6 officers, 9 non-commissioned officers, 79 enlisted men. Wounded: 20 officers, 33 non-commissioned officers, 308 enlisted men. Missing in action: 1 officer, 2 non-commissioned officers, 7 enlisted men. Reinforcements received: 11 officers, 1 non-commissioned officer, 180 enlisted men. During the same period, the 1st SS Reconnaissance Battalion captured 112 commanders and 10,102 Red Army soldiers. Our defensive position ran right through the village, located on the front slope of a long ridge. Flooded meadows stretched out before us, their icy cover interrupted only here and there by small thickets of willow. The Russians occupied their positions opposite us. In some places, they were only 100 meters away. The front had calmed down. Apart from reconnaissance and artillery fire, there was no other combat activity. In the current situation, I considered patrolling unnecessary, and as a result, I had no casualties for weeks. The positions continued to be thoroughly equipped. Particular importance was attached to the installation of deeply echeloned minefields. Earthworks were carried out with the help of the local population. The troops provided the local residents with food and medical assistance. I refused to forcibly remove people from their homes and hunt them down across the snowy expanses. This could have resulted in inevitable losses. The respect we showed led to the population helping us, for the sake of good relations between them and the military. So it was no surprise that, after a short time, our battalion had the best-equipped defensive positions, and we were visited by officers from neighboring units and divisions. Our dugouts and bunkers were almost as comfortable as home. At the beginning of the year, I learned something that I don't want to hide from the reader. One day, my driver, Max Bornheft, placed a plate of small pieces of meat in front of me, explaining that they were pigeon thighs, which he had obtained thanks to his good connections in Taganrog. When I started eating this delicacy, I had my doubts. I told Max that, although it was all very tasty, none of the thighs had ever flown through the air like a pigeon. But Max didn't keep me guessing for long. He said rather dryly, "No, they didn't fly, they jumped. You're eating frog legs." After the frosts ended, a period of impassable mud set in, which made supplying the troops almost impossible and hindered offensive operations. How should the war continue? This question aroused our keen interest. A defensive option was unthinkable, but the German troops on the Eastern Front lacked the strength for a large-scale offensive. The divisions that could be used for an offensive were still in their positions, although the personnel were only sufficient for rest and replenishment. We feared that one day we would be driven from our positions and forced to attack with hastily assembled units. After the 1st Tank Army and part of the 17th Army destroyed the Russian troops that had broken through south of Kharkov, we were withdrawn from our winter positions and transferred to the Donetsk area at the end of May. It was there that new units formed over the winter reinforced our division, and new recruits joined the ranks of the veterans. Exercises at the shooting range quickly restored my battalion to excellent combat form. It was better armed than in 1941, and with the experience of previous battles behind it, it once again became a worthy opponent for any enemy. The morale of the unit was high. Servicemen of all ranks firmly believed in their own strength and in their officers, above all thanks to their superhuman abilities demonstrated in combat operations both in attack and in defense, and their ability to withstand superior enemy forces. Quite unexpectedly, in early June 1942, the Leibstandarte Division was withdrawn from the forces preparing for a major offensive in the south of the Eastern Front, and transferred to France in anticipation of a possible landing by Allied forces. My battalion was transferred to the area around the city of Caen, and the headquarters was stationed in Bretteville-sur-Lay. A short time passed, and Normandy held no more secrets for us. All possible situations were rehearsed, both with and without troops, and as a result, we achieved a level of preparedness that could confidently rival the best peacetime military units. In the fall, we were preparing to be sent to North Africa, but fate decided otherwise. The tragedy of the 6th Army at Stalingrad called us back to Russia. Only luck saved our division from defeat at Stalingrad. The divisions that fought alongside us went into their last battle here. Others were waiting for our help. We left France at top speed and headed east again. Our destination was the front east of Kharkov. That's all for today. If you liked the video, please support it with a like and subscribe to the channel. See you all soon.